Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Well guys, I'm putting together an odds and ends video for you this week, and two reasons I'm doing that. Number one, stuff is piling up. I've got a lot of stuff we need to go through over here. But number two, I have not been able to get out into the shop and do anything now for 3 weeks. I was on the road for almost not quite 2 weeks between going up to ArnFest and then having a business trip in between. And on my way back from that traveling, I started having some pain down in my abdomen, and I've actually been dealing with some of that since then. Over that next weekend, which was last weekend now, experienced some very major pain, had 2 trips to the emergency room. Doctors were really kind of stumped as to what was going on. Finally, a day or so later, I started developing a rash across my side, and suddenly the doctors knew exactly what was going on, and I have come down with a really bad case of the shingles. And anybody out there who's ever had the shingles before, you know what I'm talking about. It is extremely painful. Because of that, I've been pretty much stuck in the house this whole past week. Today is actually the first time I've ventured out into the shop, and this is going to be a short trip for me. Still not even close to being back to 100%, but I am at least able to get out here and shoot a little bit of video for you guys. Fortunately, I got some stuff saved up on my computer that I'm being able to edit and kind of feed out to you guys. Don't know how much long this shingles thing is going to really be affecting me, but I really don't anticipate being back out in the shop really at all this coming week, and who knows, maybe even the week after that. I really want to get over it before I come back out here and start doing too much. It's just too hot, and with this being on my skin, I really don't want to be sweating out here. But enough on that. I will survive. That's the good news, is even though shingles is very painful, you recover from it. It's usually not anything that's going to cause any major long-term problems. So with that, let's get in here and start talking about our viewer mail, or all of our items here. It's not all viewer mail. So we got a combination of things we're going to be looking at. Number one, I do have some viewer mail. Number two, we got some purchases that we made up at ArnFest. And number three, I've got some items that some people at ArnFest actually gave me. So there were quite a few of my viewers who I was able to meet up at ArnFest. It was a great time. Had an absolute ball that weekend, and met a lot of people. Can't remember all the names. It was fast and furious, like it usually is when you go to these events where there are just so many people, and so many people trying to, grab a minute of your time, which I thoroughly enjoy. I'm thankful when you guys pull me aside and speak to me, because it really it gives me a lot of encouragement to keep doing what I'm doing. But anyway, I had several folks give me some items up there. So with that, let's get in here and start looking at some of this viewer mail. So the items I'm showing here are in no particular order. These just happen to be the ones that were closest to the camera. And what these are actually some pieces and parts off of a sharpening attachment that goes, I believe, to a P24 crescent planer, wood planer. And if anybody knows on my woodworking side, I really haven't shared a lot about my machinery over there. I'm a big fan of machines made by the Crescent Machine Company. Have quite a few of them in my collection, and I don't actually have the machine that these go to, but ironically I've got some other pieces off of a sharpening bar to go to this planer, and I hope to one day actually get a P24 planer that I can put into my shop, and this will definitely help me get that sharpening bar set up if I ever get to that point. So these are brackets that hold the bar that goes across. These pieces here for actually indexing the head to the proper position. This is kind of cool. This is a joining attachment. So there's a little attachment on here. This has actually got a sharpening stone where you hone the cutters. You actually turn the planer on, the blade is spinning, and this it goes along and hones the blades and puts like a little bit finer sharpening on them. So anyway, some nice little accessories here for a crescent planer. I apologize, I don't remember the name of the individual that gave this to me. You're going to see that on quite a few of the items that came from ArnFest. Again, there were just so many people, and I had folks just dropping stuff off to me, throwing it in the back of the truck, what have you. And once again, I didn't do a good job of writing down names, and I just can't remember all these names. But thank you very much to the one that gave these to me. Here we got another collection of some items that was given to me at ArnFest, and again, I don't recall the individual's name. I remember walking out and picking these up from his vehicle and carrying them over to mine. But some nice little accessories here for the wood shop. Here's a little molding head, a DeWalt molding head that you can put like on a radial arm saw to cut special molding profiles. Here's the same thing. This one's made by Craftsman, a little bit larger diameter. This one you would run on a table saw. Got a little dado set for a table saw, and this is a DeWalt sanding disc. So you got a disc here, and there's actually some sanding pads in here that you could use with that for sanding in the wood shop. So some nice little accessories here, and we will put these out in the wood shop, and I'm sure we will have a use for them at some time. I actually don't have molding heads, and I actually don't have this. I've got a dado set. It's a little bit larger than that one, but we'll find a good home for that one as well. Next item here, again from a viewer up at ArnFest that pulled me aside and handed this over to me. This is a number 5 Morse taper and a little over 2.5 inch drill. This is what they call a core drill. It's not for drilling a hole solid, but for enlarging a smaller hole and bringing it up to a size. So normally at this kind of size, you wouldn't be trying to drill it all in one pass anyway. But anyway, it looks nice. It looks like it's in pretty decent shape. And so when we have some large size holes to drill, we can definitely use this. The number 5 Morse taper will fit into my Carlton radial drill, and should also fit on the big Monarch lathe once we get a tailstock set up over there on that. So another nice little accessory. When you're trying to punch a big hole in something, it's nice to be able to run a drill through it to get it as big as you can before you start going to the boring bars. So I'm sure this is going to see some use over time. So thank you very much for that one. Another one from a viewer at ArnFest. This was a drill bit. Came up, asked if I could use it. It's obviously been taken down pretty short, but if you don't have a very deep hole to drill, it's still very usable. That drill bit, who knows, it may have gotten broken off at some time and someone salvaged it, or may have just been used up and gotten down that short, but who knows, sometimes you do need to drill through something small. This is something with this size of a shank on it. I could probably use this over on my horizontal boring, or horizontal milling machine rather. That's probably the only thing I could have something that would fit that. But anyway, nice to have around. You never know when you might need something like that and can use it for something. So thank you, sir. Another nice little item here is this woodworking vise, and again, I don't recall the gentleman's name, and I believe that he actually gave me one of these the year before at ArnFest as well. And this is a woodworking vise that you put on a bench. It's got the little quick release where you just turn the handle and you can slide it. It's twist in here, and there's a nut that has an empty spot in it where you can just pull it in and out. Then when you start tightening it up, it flips that nut over again, and you can tighten it up. So anyway, just for quick moving it in and out big distances. I will say I'm a little bit embarrassed to show this because when he gave it to me, it was in pristine condition. Unfortunately, coming home, I had this in the back of the truck, and even though I had a bed cover on my truck, I drove through quite a bit of rain and evidently got some moisture back there, and it got a little bit of flash rust on here. So I'm gonna have to get this cleaned up, probably just dunk it in some evapor rust and I'll let it go away, and I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. But anyway, very nice addition, and this will, I am quite sure, end up on one of my woodworking benches. I've got several woodworking benches I need to build over for the woodworking shop, and I like to have a vise like this on every single bench over there. You would line this with wood on these faces that you can easily change out, and this kind of just fits right up underneath the bench. And I've got a vise like this on one of my benches, and I use it all the time, and like I said, I want to have one of these on every bench in the woodworking shop. So nice little addition here. Next item here is a little bit of viewer mail, and this comes from Bruce Witham, and many of you guys may recognize this logo and recognize who this is. Bruce is actually a YouTube machinist in our community. Is down in Perth, Australia. He's got a really neat YouTube channel. One of the things that he kind of specializes in, and by no means is his channel limited to this, but he kind of specializes in getting bolts and taps and different items that are just stuck in something out. People bring him stuff in all the time to do that, and he really specializes in that. Has some really good series of videos that he calls Get Her Out, where he goes through how he removes some of these broken, stuck parts, and it's been quite interesting to watch those, and I've learned a lot from Bruce. I've had a chance to meet him a couple of times out at the Bardsley Summer Bash. He flies over for that, or at least has the last couple of years. But anyway, what Bruce sent along is, number one, this little Engineer's Black Book, which is a little reference guide, a little reference book that I've actually got another copy of this. I'm glad to get this because I'm going to take this one out to the museum, so I'll have a copy out there as well. But this has all kinds of reference information in it. You can think of it as a modern and condensed version of the Machinery's Handbook. It doesn't have near everything that's in the Machinery's Handbook, but a lot of the real stuff you go to regularly is in here. Also, a lot of real good information on inserts, different sizes and stuff like that, with some of your more modern type tooling. Really good reference book. And Bruce actually, I think, sells these. This is the USA edition. They have some different versions of this that are out there. And he sent me a decal and then also a cap with his company logo from his business that he runs as well. So anyway, thank you very much, Bruce. If you haven't, please go and check out Bruce's YouTube channel. You can just search for his name, Bruce Witham, W-I-T-H-A-M. And anyway, check him out. I think you'll enjoy it. This next little lot of items here is actually a combination of both a gift as well as some purchases. And this comes from Jack Hoying. Jack is a gentleman that I've also had the opportunity to meet a couple of times. And Jack sells some tooling and machinist tools and so forth. He's got a website. I'll put a link to it down in my description. Always has some really neat stuff. He'll go up and buy stuff out up there in the Ohio area where he's at, and then resell items. He comes up with some neat stuff. But first off, the couple things that I bought. Number one is I got this nice Starrett number 708 test indicator. This measures in 10,000ths of an inch. I've actually got another one just like this. I really like this little test indicator. And let me get that down here where you can see a little bit better. But I really like this particular test indicator. And recently I was working on a job and I needed two of these at the same time. And I only had one really good test indicator that measures to the 10,000ths. And so I was looking for another one, went to his website, lo and behold, he had one, and he gave me a good deal on it. Has a couple extra tips as well as a little fixture there to hold it with some different things. The case is not the original case. This actually, I think, fit a different indicator, but it fit in here, so he sent the case along with me as well. The other items that I purchased from Jack were all these little indicator snugs up here. This is, again, it's just one of those things that when you start working with indicators and start trying to do custom setups, you just don't ever seem to have the right combination of these things. So anytime I can find some of these in toolboxes or at a sale or whatever, if they're reasonably priced, I'll just buy them. I asked him if he had any, and he went and dug through a bunch of stuff, had a bunch of different miscellaneous pieces, and he gave me a deal on the whole lot there. In addition, he threw in this nice drill bit here, really a brand spanking new drill bit. I think he said he had several of these, and I'm trying to look. I don't see the size on there. Oh, there it is. 1 1/32 is the size on that. He just sent that along as a gift. He also sent along this really nice little sign here that's got a little saying in here about tools. I'll let you read that if you want to. You can pause your video, but really nice little thing. He made the frame for this. He said he's got one of these hanging up in his shop, and this one will soon be hanging up in my shop. I'm always looking for some shop art, I guess you could say, to hang up out here in the shop, and this will definitely fit into that category. So anyway, thank you very much, Jack. As always, you provide a valuable service in finding in new homes for some of this tooling and tools and so forth. And thank you for your friendship, and thank you for the couple extra items you threw in there. Next little collection here is some viewer mail that I received from Stephen Thompson. And Stephen had a couple of books he wanted to send along, as well as a few little extra items that he had laying around that he wanted to give me. So we got one here on design of weld structures. Here's a history book on the Civil War, running farm engines. That'll be interesting to look at. Got a little brush here of some kind. Looks like it was made for something in particular, but hey, these things come in handy all the time, cleaning things up. Got a router bit for the woodworking shop. This is actually for making like a 45-degree miter joint that has a little glue joint built into it. The same router cuts both sides of the glue joint, and you can put them together. That's actually a handy little router bit. I've seen these before, and I don't have one. I do now. And that one's brand new. And here's a little flashlight that clips up underneath the bill of your cap. So anyway, Stephen, thanks for sending along these items. We'll put the books in the library and get the tools out here put up where we can use them at some point in time. Thank you, sir. This next collection is some tooling, mostly horizontal mill tooling. And this all came from Bob up in Ohio, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. But he was telling me that they were cleaning out the warehouse or the tool room or whatever, a storage room where he works at, and there was a good bit of this old horizontal mill tooling that they still had there at the shop, and they don't even have a horizontal mill anymore, and wanted to find a new home for it. So he asked me if he could send this stuff down, and absolutely, I will say that I've got a pretty good collection of horizontal mill tooling now that I've put together over the last couple of years, but a lot of this stuff was interesting to me because it's the small stuff. A lot of these cutters are like shell mill cutters that go on a little shell mill arbor, and I don't have a lot of stuff in this range. So, and there were some unique things in here too. A lot of these are like for cutting splines, what have you, having these included angles. These were, you know, again, tooling that I really didn't have a lot of. So this is actually pretty neat. I also had a couple of 50 taper pieces here. This one was a shell mill. Really, both of these are kind of shell mill cutters. Our holders you always need that kind of stuff. So, you know, nice to have those. Also had this really interesting end mill, man. That joker there looks serious. I don't think this one's ever been used. Looks like it's got a like brazed on carbide on here. Anyway, that thing looks pretty dang aggressive. We can run that over in the horizontal mill for sure. I may even have an adapter I can use that on my vertical mill. But anyway, that right there, that looks like a serious little end mill. But anyway, thanks a lot for sending these along, Jane or Bob, and I will get all this stuff sorted out. You know, I'm really kind of on the lookout for like a Lista cabinet or Vidmar cabinet, heavy duty cabinet that I can really get all my horizontal mill tooling like this sorted out where I can find it. I've got things sorted out over here pretty good now, but I've actually have acquired some more horizontal mill tooling and need a little bit more storage space. So hopefully I'm going to give me a good deal on a cabinet that I can put all this stuff in pretty soon, because this is, and I've said this before with these cutters, you just don't ever know what you're going to need until you need it. And a lot of this horizontal milling tooling is getting harder and harder to find because it's not as common anymore. And when you do have to buy the stuff new, it is really high dollar stuff. And you know, if you're doing a production job where you're making hundreds of the same part over and over again, it's easy to justify spending $600 or $700 on a cutter. But with the kind of work I'm doing, where it may only get used for making one part, it's really difficult to justify buying new tooling in a lot of times. So anytime I can buy this used stuff, I do, and most of this stuff can be sent out and be resharpened. It can be reused over and over and over again. So, you know, anyway, I try to pick it up whenever I can. So while we're looking at horizontal milling cutters, here's a collection that I picked up at ArnFest this year that was someone was selling out during the swap meet, and I ended up just going over there and buying the whole lot from him. He was selling them one at a time, and I said, well, how much do you take for all of them? And we worked out a pretty good deal here on there. I got a little bit of money tied up in these, but per cutter, I don't really have a whole lot tied up in them, which was nice. These are specifically Involute gear cutters, so these are for cutting gear teeth. And if you know about Involute gear cutters, for every pitch gear, there are 7 cutters that make up a set, and most of these I don't even have all 7 of the cutters, but I got several in there, and I've got some others. I haven't seen what else I've already got in my collection, but anytime I see these Involute cutters, I just buy them because seem like I'm doing more and more gear jobs, and every time I do a gear cutting job, you got to have the right cutter, and there's just hundreds of them to potentially need to have a complete set. And so when I find them at a good price, I just usually go ahead and buy them, because it also seems like every time I go to do a gear job, even though I've got a bunch of cutters, I don't ever seem to have the one I need. So anyway, I'm trying to remedy that. These are all in great shape. The stack here, these are in kind of stacked by pitch, so I think this is a, what is this? This is a number 1 pitch. I can't remember which one's which. This is a number, there's 1 pitch, 2 pitch, 2.5 pitch, 3 pitch, and 4 pitches, and then I got 1 5 pitch. And then I think the number 3's diametral pitch, I think I had a full set. The rest of these are missing 1 or 2 cutters in the set, but still nice to have the individual ones. And like I said, these will get used. Well, I say they'll get used. Most of these will never get used, but there will be some of these that get used at some point in time. And again, if you got to go buy this one cutter, you can easily tie up $300 or $400 in one big diametral cutter like this. Even the smaller ones, you can easily spend, the ones smaller than this are $70, $80. That one right there is probably $150 to go buy new. So if I can pick these up for $7 or $8 a piece, it's just nice to just go ahead and get them. And again, they can be resharpened, and you can just keep using these. There's a lot of life in these, and the way I'm using them, 1 gear at a time, I'm never going to wear them out. So anyway, nice to have some more of those as well. Another little item I picked up at ArnFest is this nice little metal decimal equivalent chart. A gentleman had this. It's in great shape. Maybe bent in a few places, but not bad. Maybe a little bit down on the bottom, got a little rust starting, but overall this thing is really in nice shape. And he had it out on his table, $35. I snatched it up as quick as I could. This is again some nice little piece of shop art to hang up out here in the shop, an old vintage decimal equivalent chart. So anyway, thought that was a nice find at ArnFest. Next item here comes from Tom Danino, who you may remember I did a couple of parts for him related to a reed vise. And one of the parts that I did, I actually didn't shoot video on it, but I was needing some metric drill bits and taps to do a part. And honestly, guys, I just don't have a whole lot of metric tooling in my shop. I generally don't need it very often, but every now and then I do need some, and I had a case come up in that project where I did, and I had to go purchase a single drill bit and a single tap to do his job because I didn't have those things in hand. Tom took note of that, and kind of as a thank you for helping on that project, he was kind enough to send along this nice drill index here with some nice high quality American-made drill hog drill bits. I've heard real good things about these, and anyway, he sent me a complete set of metric drill bits here in a nice Hewitt drill index case. So really a very nice gesture. Tom, I thank you so much for doing that. Now I need to work on getting up a good complete set of metric taps as well. I've got a bunch of individual sizes, and I think I'm going to do is get an index to put my taps in, and then I can start trying to fill those out. I've got a bunch of miscellaneous ones. I need to get them sorted out and see what I still need to get those, so that I just have this tooling on hand when I need it. Again, I don't do a lot in metric, but it seems like there's more and more stuff coming up, and it's just something you need to have on hand in the shop. So thanks a lot for sending that along, Tom. So up next here, I've got some stuff that I picked up from a YouTube viewer who lives over in Ozark, Alabama, James Helvin. He contacted me a while back, said he had some stuff he wanted to pass my way. He had just recently moved, and he was trying to get some stuff moved out of his shop that he couldn't use to make some room for other stuff. I think they were downsizing houses and was needing just to get rid of some stuff. And a little bit of story on James. James works, real interesting job. He's an engineer, and he works for a company that makes Doppler radar systems, and I think other kind of radar systems as well. And he told me that at some point in the past, this company had purchased another radar-related company and merged it into theirs, and the other company had a shop and they went and moved all the equipment over to their shop, and there was a bunch of extra stuff. And he was able to, I think, purchase some of the surplus stuff that they had. He brought it home to his shop, and in the process of downsizing, I think he got rid of like a Bridgeport-sized milling machine and some other stuff. And anyway, he had a bunch of things that he really just couldn't use because now he has more smaller machines. I've got to actually go to his place and visit his shop. Smaller machines that this stuff won't work in. And again, he's just kind of downsizing in life as he gets up to that retirement age, which I think a lot of people do. Very gracious. He gave me some really nice stuff. Right here, this is a high-speed head with an R8 collet on it. So when you turn the top, you notice the bottom is turning at a much higher speed. So there's some gear gears in here that just increase the speed of something, and I'm gonna have to figure out what collet that is. But this is something that I can put on my milling machine to do high-speed work. Very nice. Also had a couple of these boxes, and I think he told me these was from a coworker that he worked with. I think he passed away. He had a shop at home, and his wife was trying to sell his stuff off after he passed away, and he purchased both of these items. And again, they wouldn't fit anything that he had anymore. And these are just amazing. So look at here. This is a brand spanking new set of Kennametal shell mill. Got the actual mill cutter here. Here's a R8 adapter to hold that. This all Kennametal. Got extra. Got inserts in here. I don't think I don't think I know that this set has never even been used. It's brand new in the box. Just an amazing gift, and this Kennametal stuff is extremely high quality stuff. So really awesome. He told me he really didn't have much tied up in it, and he was just needing to get it out of his way again because he couldn't use it. And the other thing, again, pretty amazing, brand spanking new Criterion boring bar head on an R8 spindle. R8 shank up here has the cutters, the carbide cutters, and again, I don't think any of this has even been used one time. All these cutters still have the coating on the tips, so it looks like that, well, that one there may have been used. I don't think so. The bottom is off. No, that hadn't been used. That hadn't been used. So again, a brand spanking new Criterion boring head. You can get the Chinese version of these, fairly inexpensive, but if you get the nice American-made Criterion stuff, this is high dollar stuff. So anyways, very nice stuff here. And let me show you what else that I got from James. So we got several things here. First is a really nice Bridgeport brand Rotary table. It's dirty. It looks like it had been set up doing an aluminum job at some point in time. I need to get it cleaned up, probably bring the pressure washer home and then get some oil and stuff on there, but it's in great condition. It looks a little bit rough. And also these 3 vices over here. There are 2 Kurt vices. This one here is very similar to the one that I restored some time back. Actually, I think it's a size smaller, but still very useful. This is the one that has 2 sets of jaws in it. This one is really set more for like a CNC setup where you can do 2 parts at one time or clamp 2 parts at one time. I don't know that this is something that I really have a great need for because I'm not doing CNC work where I can do 2 parts at a time, but still a nice little addition to have. And then over here is a really nice Bridgeport brand vise. It's actually on the swivel base. Again, dirty, but in good condition. I think once I get it cleaned up, it'll really be nice. So some nice stuff here. And there were some miscellaneous parts and pieces, I think, that came off of a Bridgeport milling machine that are back there as well. That I think was some pieces that he had left over when he did some work to the one that he had at one time. But anyway, some really nice stuff here. I'm looking forward to cleaning all this stuff up here and getting it done. Just haven't had time to do that between being on the road and being sick here the last few weeks. It was kind of interesting that when James contacted me about these items he had that he wanted to pass along to me, he had told me he was over in Ozark, Alabama, which isn't too far from where I live, a couple hours drive. But he said, hey, let's schedule a time that maybe we can meet halfway and get a chance to meet you and what have you. It was absolutely just crazy because I got that probably about 8 or 9 o'clock one evening, and I had scheduled to go to Dothan, Alabama the next day for work. I had to go meet a sales rep over there and go out and do some stuff with him. And I was only about 20 minutes from Ozark. So when I finished up with my doing my stuff at work, I just ran over there and was able to meet him at his house. It really just worked out perfectly. If he had been a day later sending me that, even hours later sending me that email, probably would have had to made a special trip and met him somewhere halfway in between, but it really worked out good. And appreciate it very much. Like I said, these were just stuff that he was just like, you know, I know this is some nice stuff. He said, I just can't use it. He said, I've downsized. He's still very active in his shop, but just didn't have the bigger machinery anymore, and was very happy to pass it along to me. And I'm very grateful. This is some really nice stuff. So thank you very much, James. And with that, that is going to be a wrap on this episode. And honestly, I'm wore out. Just being out here doing this with this shingle stuff that I'm dealing with right now, it's about taking everything out of me. I'm going to go back into the house and rest the rest of the day. And hopefully we'll get over this shingles episode soon and be back out in the shop doing some work, because I got a pile of stuff that needs to be done out here, but I'm just not up to doing it right now. So hopefully I'll have some content that we can continue filtering out to you guys until my health improves to a point where I can get back out here and get back to work. And I want to thank everybody. I know the guys over on Facebook had seen this, and I want to thank everybody who sent along words of words that you were thinking about me, and also you guys that said you were praying for me through this difficult time. It's very appreciative as well. I do think I'm on the downhill side of this thing, but I've still got a little ways to go. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. As always, thank you for watching, guys. Leave me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, shoot me an email, whatever you like, and we'll catch you on the next video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.